My daughter is joining the company, so I need you to resign today. It's your last day." On the morning of the 20th, the president suddenly told me I was fired. I was shocked and didn't know what to say. The 20th was the day we paid our suppliers. Some payments were made through bank transfers for longtime suppliers, but I also made direct payments and visited them as a courtesy. "You look like you can go home right away. I'll give you the day off just for you, so leave quickly," the president said. He pushed me out of the office, and the door shut with a snap right in front of my face. I didn't even know where to start to argue. My name is Chloe. I joined this family-owned paving company right after high school and worked as a clerical worker for 10 years. Well, until just now. The company had about 20 employees, and when the current chairman was the president, the workplace atmosphere was great. It was an easy place to work. The chairman, now retired, used to work closely with the younger employees, and his wife, Catherine, would come in every day to help with various tasks. Until he was hospitalized, their daughter, Kelly, was skilled in both field and office work. Her husband was the site manager and was trusted by the on-site employees. Even though they were the founding family, they never acted superior or looked down on the employees. It would have been wonderful if this enjoyable and smoothly running company life had continued, but unfortunately, reality wasn't so kind. At the end of last year, the chairman was diagnosed with cancer during the company's group medical examination. He decided to retire as president and appointed Kelly's husband, the site manager, as the next president. Both the employees and I unanimously agreed. We all thought the chairman should focus on his treatment and wished for his long life. However, suddenly the chairman's eldest son, Tom, appeared with his family. I didn't know where he heard the news from. It turns out the chairman had another child besides Kelly. Tom had been disowned about 30 years ago, and I didn't know about it at all. According to the senior employees, Tom was a troublemaker in his youth and often had run-ins with the police. Whenever he caused problems, the chairman and Catherine would go and apologize. After dropping out of high school, he got involved in multi-level marketing and fraudulent activities, which finally led the chairman to disown him. Despite being out of touch for a long time, Tom suddenly appeared one day, pleading with his father. "Dad, I've realized my mistakes. Please forgive me." I was shocked to witness this in our small company, where the president's office and clerical room were one and the same. Tom expressed a desire to reconcile and work in the company, but his past made it hard to believe his sincerity. After being disowned, he apologized to everyone, but asked us to give Tom another chance. The chairman said, pleading with everyone present. Kelly and the senior employees knew about Tom's troubled history and couldn't fully celebrate, but they couldn't refuse the chairman's heartfelt request either. So Tom and his family moved into the annex of the chairman's house, with Tom becoming an employee and his wife taking on household duties. I saw their daughter only once when she visited the company. She seemed to be a college student. The chairman believed Tom had changed for the better after facing hardships in life. Catherine was overjoyed that Tom had returned with his family, talking about rebuilding the company together. However, soon after, a problem emerged. Tom insisted on something. "I'm the eldest son, so I should be the next president," declared Tom, straining his relationship with Kelly and the site manager. Despite pretending to work diligently in front of the chairman, Tom actually did very little. He frequently made demeaning remarks like, "Physical labor is for the workers, and you're all just worker ants. Work silently." Naturally, his behavior quickly made him unpopular with everyone. Some of the younger employees even went directly to the chairman, saying, "I can't work under these conditions." However, both the chairman and Catherine pleaded with everyone, saying, "We will talk to Tom about this. Please try to see the bigger picture." Then, due to stress or other reasons, the chairman's cancer suddenly worsened, and he was hospitalized 3 months ago. Tom declared, "I am the president," despite employees advising the chairman and Catherine to stick with their original plan of appointing the site manager as president. They ultimately chose Tom, their biological son, over their daughter's husband. This decision sparked grumbling among some employees who felt the chairman and Catherine were biased by parental love or losing their sharpness with age. The once harmonious company atmosphere turned tense and uncomfortable. As tensions grew, Kelly and the site manager began working behind the scenes to manage the company. This left me alone handling all administrative tasks, whereas before, Catherine, Kelly, and I shared the workload. Now I regularly work overtime, sometimes leaving so late that the date changes before I head home. Meanwhile, Tom seemed to view administrative duties as effortless, spending his days at hostess bars, betting on horses, or gambling. My relationship with the president took a serious downturn over an expense issue. He had been using the company's credit card for personal dining and entertainment expenses, and I had been overlooking it to some extent. However, this time, the expense crossed a line. With apprehension, I handed the receipt back to him. "I can't approve this expense," I told him. "What? Why not?" he demanded. "This is for your wife's corrective underwear. It's not related to business, so it can't be expensed," I said. As expected, the president's face flushed with anger. "Don't challenge me. She's the president's wife. It's natural for her to dress well." "This is a valid expense." "No, that's not how it works. Your wife's underwear can't be considered a business expense." I stammered, struggling to comprehend how the president could justify a $4,000 expense for his wife's corrective underwear. His next suggestion left me even more bewildered. "Then let's turn selling corrective underwear into our new business venture. We'll categorize it as inventory so it counts as an expense." The president seemed pleased with his idea, but I was at a loss for words. "We're a paving company," I managed to say. "So what? We can threaten clients that if they don't buy from us, we'll cancel their contracts. Everyone will buy. It's easy money. $22,000 for one, $4,000 for a set." The president chuckled loudly, but I felt horrified. "That's absolutely unacceptable. It will damage our credibility." I snapped at him in anger. From that moment on, I became the target of the president's disdain. Day after day, I endured constant parading from him. The situation became so difficult that I considered quitting many times. However, I continued to endure and work, driven by my loyalty to the chairman, who had always supported me, and my concern for the team, who would struggle if I left. The truth was, I couldn't afford to lose my job suddenly. I decided to tough it out until the right moment to move on. But then, unexpectedly, I was fired. If I quit abruptly now, it will cause problems for our clients, I thought to myself. Taking a deep breath, I gathered my courage and confronted the president. "I can't do this. I can't just leave without proper notice and handover. Even your daughter wouldn't be able to handle the workload. Besides, today is the day we need to handle payments," I said in one breath, fully expecting the president to erupt in anger. As expected, the president's face turned red with anger. "Shut up. I told you to resign because my daughter is joining the company. Today is your last day. After the payment, let them wait until they come to collect it. There's no need to pay them up front. Excuse me, isn't it normal to pay for something once you buy it?" I was shocked and explained it patiently, as if talking to a child. But the president responded with something so unreasonable that I couldn't believe he was being rational. "If that's the case, just threaten to switch suppliers. Tell them we won't make the payment this time, so they should give it to us for free." "What? That's not something we can do, is it?" I was so stunned that I couldn't find the right words to respond. "You're completely useless. My daughter has a college degree. She can handle office work easily. As family, she won't question my expenses like you do. You're all talk and no action. We don't need someone like you in our company. Leave now," the president sneered. It seemed clear he intended for his daughter to handle accounting, so he could justify personal expenses as business expenses. "Oh, is that so?" "Just remember, I won't regret this," I replied. Words were futile at this point. My patience had worn thin. I quickly gathered my belongings and left the company, feeling sorry for our clients. I called Kelly, despite knowing Catherine and Kelly were busy with the chairman. This was urgent. I explained everything and trusted the rest to Kelly. Once I left the company, I found myself with nothing to do. Being fired without notice clearly violated labor standards laws. If I reported this to the labor standards office, the company would be in trouble. Since our company was part of the middle company payment system, I could claim my severance pay and 1 month's salary. This system supports small and medium-sized enterprises that can't afford severance pay on their own. I didn't need to rush because I could apply within 5 years from my retirement date, and the Labor Standards Office had a 2-year statute of limitations. With my professional habits, I planned out the necessary procedures and timeline for retirement. I decided I could take it easy for at least a week. Lately, I had been working overtime and weekends nonstop, leaving no time for myself at home. There were many places I wanted to visit once I settled down, so I chose to go on a day trip to the beach for a refreshing break. After enjoying myself at the beach, I checked my phone in the locker and found several missed calls, emails, and voicemails. Among them, Kelly's email caught my attention. It said the payment process went smoothly and everything was in order. I felt relieved despite the abruptness of my dismissal by the president. I couldn't shake the guilt of leaving my job in anger. Next, I listened to the voicemail from the company. It was the panicked voice of the president saying, "Hey, what's going on? They're saying I'm not the real president. Did you know about this? Explain yourself." After chuckling at his realization, I continued to check my emails and voicemails. Among them was a message from the chairman, so I promptly headed to the hospital. Arriving at the hospital room that evening, I found Catherine and the president already there. As soon as the chairman saw me, he greeted me from his bed. "Chloe, I'm truly sorry for my foolish son." "Hey, what's going on? I'm not the official president. Explain yourself." Tom shouted arrogantly, clearly not understanding the situation. The chairman quickly silenced him with a stern command. "Quiet down." It turned out that right after I had called Kelly, she promptly informed the chairman and Catherine. Upon receiving the news, the chairman immediately contacted Tom, who was acting as president, and asked, "Do you really not know anything?" "So what's the truth?" I calmly explained to the president, who was still shouting in confusion. "Tom, you didn't have any legal authority. Your role as president was just a title. It might seem confusing, but in business terms, president is a position within the company and doesn't hold legal standing like a representative director does. The representative director is the one legally responsible for the company's actions externally. It's a different and more formal role that requires specific legal procedures to change." I continued, "While the title of president can be changed informally within the company, altering the representative director involves complex legal processes. That's why your position didn't carry the legal weight you assumed it did. 3 months ago, when Tom was appointed president, there was strong opposition from Kelly, the site manager, and veteran employees. That's when I proposed a strategy. Tom would be a figurehead president, while the chairman remained the legally responsible representative director. As someone familiar with company procedures and laws, I knew the complexities involved. Under my plan, if Tom showed genuine dedication and won over all employees, then we would initiate the legal process to formalize his presidency. However, if Tom failed to prove himself fit for the role, the backup plan was to either remove him or even consider closing the company, while Kelly and the site manager prepared to launch a new venture. Kelly doubted Tom's ability to change, and Catherine continued to believe in Tom until he unfairly dismissed me, which seemed to awaken them to his shortcomings. If you want to be a leader, learn and take care of your employees. I've told you this many times, the chairman emphasized. Tom retorted, "It's not a big deal, right? Can't we just handle the procedures now?" No, it's not possible, the chairman explained. Our company offers stocks to employees who want them, and many of them own shares. Chloe owns 10%, making her a major shareholder. We can't disregard her views, and other shareholders won't support you either. As the president began to understand the gravity of the situation, his face paled. What? I don't have any shares. None? I plan to pass on my shares to you once you prove yourself as president, the chairman said. I'm deeply disappointed in you. Were you only interested in my wealth, thinking I didn't have much time left? The chairman slumped in despair, and Catherine remained silent, visibly upset. Defiantly, the president responded, Well, I'm the eldest son. What's wrong with taking what's rightfully mine? The company belongs to me. I can't forgive you anymore, the chairman said. The chairman bears full responsibility as the representative director of this company. Moreover, I'm a shareholder. I have the right to call for a shareholders' meeting and propose your removal. I assert it firmly, the chairman added. The president's face drained of color as he grasped the implication of removal. You mean I could be fired? Dan, you were just a clerk. Tom, Chloe is right. At this point, no one will support you, said the chairman. Chloe was the only one who spoke up to give you a chance. Catherine interjected. Then Catherine turned to me. Chloe, I owe you a sincere apology. I regret causing you trouble because of my love for my son. Please tell me what you'd like to do. I confronted the president directly. Mr. President, I no longer wish to work under your leadership, so I am resigning immediately. However, I expect to receive my severance pay along with 1 month's salary, including unpaid overtime and holiday pay. As a shareholder, I will also take action through the Labor Standards Office to remove anyone who is detrimental to the company. I spoke calmly, and as I did, the president's complexion shifted from pale to completely white. Continuing, I informed them how Kelly had been actively visiting clients and successfully promoting our new company. Many clients had already decided to switch from our current company to the new one, and most of our employees were planning to follow suit. That's impossible. I'll sue you, the president threatened, his voice cracking. But the chairman intervened firmly. I am the representative director. You have no such authority. The president collapsed to his knees, and I felt a mix of emotions, regret, disappointment, and a sense of closure. Mr. President, it's unfortunate it had to end this way. If you had changed your approach upon returning, things might have been different. There were ample opportunities for understanding if you had made efforts to learn and adapt. Ultimately, it was the president himself who squandered those chances, a classic case of reaping what one sows. In the aftermath, the chairman decided to shut down the company, leaving Tom unemployed. The president's wife attempted to sell corrective underwear, but it didn't succeed. They faced legal issues for aggressive sales tactics and were eventually arrested for involvement in a pyramid scheme. When Kelly returned to her parents' home, she found boxes of unsold underwear left behind. As for the daughter, she found employment elsewhere, although the specifics are unknown. I now work happily at Kelly's and the site manager's new company. I cherish my relationships with others and strive to live authentically each day.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick? Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my 2nd year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, "I'm very sorry." Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, "Get his boss here immediately." It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. "What is that idiot doing?" "All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next." Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. "If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you." I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. "Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize." Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. "What kind of training are you giving your subordinates?" Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed, I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry." Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." "Mike, what have you done?" Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part." I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.